is UTC 140 thread or 210. You don't want to be using 170, which is the thin stuff, which is like 8/0. You either want to be using something like 6/0 or 3/0, something a little thicker. This brand UTC, they do it in denier, so 140 or 210 is what you want to use. I'm going to be using chartreuse color thread. I'm going to be tying a chartreuse Clouser minnow. That's hands down the #1 used color is chartreuse, but I'll tie them in pink and brown and other colors. Probably one of the biggest mistakes with the Clouser minnow is most people tend to put the eyes right up front like that. That's not how the Clouser minnow was designed to be tied. You actually want your eyes almost halfway down the hook shank. And that's something that Bob Clouser is very picky about, on where you put your eyes, and most of the ones you buy or that people tie are not tied correctly. So what I'll do is I'll just put a little thread base down towards the front of the head there. I'm going to hold my eye into place. I'm just going to do some figure eights around the eye. Once I do a few figure eights, I'm actually going to go under the eye and torque down those figure eights. What that does is it makes those figure eight wraps just kind of close down on the eye of the fly. I'll do some more. It takes quite a few to really build up a bit of a base. And what I'll actually do if I'm going to fish this fly is I'll put a drop of Zap-A-Gap or head cement or super glue or something on there to keep them from rolling and twisting on me. Okay. So once I've done that, the next step is to tie in some material. We're going to use white bucktail for the tail. Okay. And I'm going to pinch off a piece that's probably a third of the size of a pencil or so. And I'm going to be tying on a Tiemco. I don't know if I said this in the beginning, but a Tiemco 811S. It's a saltwater hook. I'm going to be using a size 8. I'll tie them anywhere from 8s all the way up to 1/0 if need be. So then what I'll do is I'll just measure out how long I want the tail to be. Usually that's 2 to 3 times the length of the hook, but you can vary that depending on how long you want your fly to be. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold the bucktail on the top of the fly just like that. I'm going to put a couple of loose wraps down on the top, just like that. Then I'm going to come under the eyes and over the top of the tail of the bucktail and wrap backwards. And I'll wrap it back forwards and go under the eyes again. What I'll do is I'll clean up this white bucktail up by the eye. And I'll just lay down a few wraps just to cover up all that. And sometimes you'll get just a few stray short pieces of bucktail. You can just trim them out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to invert the fly to put the collar on.
Is that a stainless hook or
Oh yeah.
coated?
Oh no, it's stainless. Yep. Then once I do that, I'm going to actually tie on some flash before I...
And what size hook is that?
That's an 8. That's usually on the smaller side, but this is what I use for bonefish, a lot of redfish on the sand flats. But I'll use bigger ones. I mean, I've heard of guys catching tarpon on Clousers and they'll use big giant ones. You can just tie them in all kinds of sizes. I mean, blue water guys use them, believe it or not, for mahi or mackerel or other fish. So what I'm doing is just cutting out some crystal flash here, and I'm going to cut about 5 strands or so of crystal flash out. What I'm going to try to do is lay that into the side of the fly. Just like that. And then I tied it in long. I tied in the tail hanging off the back, and I left a bunch hanging off the front. And I'll just take that other clump and just fold it to the other side. That way you don't have to tie in 2 separate pieces. Okay, once we have that in, now it's time for the bottom half, and that's where you use your color, your chartreuse or your pink or whatever color Clouser you're using. And the other thing, most people tend to get too carried away with how much bucktail they use on a Clouser. You'll see a lot of them that are really fat and really bulky. That's actually not how Bob Clouser wants his Clousers to be tied. He likes them very sparse, and he likes to kind of spread out those sparse pieces of bucktail. That's just how he likes it, and actually that's how I think they fish better. It's by using, they like the sparser ones.
I don't care what he likes because he's not.
I use
I'm not trying to catch him.
I use pretty sparse ones. Well, I mean, Bob has caught a lot more saltwater fish than any of us. He knows what works. So what I did there was I just kind of lined up a few of the pieces of bucktail. Sometimes on the tail you'll have long pieces, short pieces, so I'll kind of just pick out some of the long pieces and line them up with the short ones just to make them somewhat even. Now what I'm going to try to do is line them up fairly close to the tail sections of my white bucktail. And I'll just kind of eyeball it and line it up, get it close. And I'll just lay that down on the bottom of the fly. Put a loose wrap on there, tighten it down. And after I just put a couple tight wraps down, I'll just get in there and trim it. Then I'll cover up all those loose wraps there, or loose ends. Sometimes what I'll try to do is just spread out a little bit of that bucktail. And there you go, that's the Clouser. And then you just whip finish to finish it off. What did I do with my whip finisher? Now a Clouser is kind of like your woolly bugger of the saltwater. Easy to tie, works just about everywhere. Do it in all kinds of sizes and colors. Put different weights on it. So then what I'll do after I'm all done is those pieces of crystal flash are going to be a little uneven. And I actually want my crystal flash to just be a hair longer than the bucktail. That way it looks like kind of the tail's hanging off the back end. Let me back out the camera here so you can kind of see what I've done here. Yeah, I mean that's a Clouser, and that's the color that, if you're just to pick one, that's what you'd be using. And on the back here you can see, I don't know if you can really tell on the camera, but there's some exposed thread right there. I would also either super glue that or put some head cement or something on there. A lot of times when you buy the Clouser, you'll see they'll do like little X's on the back, where they'll kind of do these little crosses. I don't even bother with that. I just cover it all up, make it durable, and glue it, and that's all there is to a Clouser.